7th. Over the coming hour and a half, we'll have a live audience here with questions to pose. But will the politicians have answers? Welcome to the big debate, Senedd election 2026. This evening at the Egin, Wales's 6 largest parties go head-to-head to discuss the issues that matter to you. We have an audience here joining us from all parts of Wales, representing a wide range of political perspectives. Some have, and others haven't yet decided how to vote. And I know that they, like myself and the audience at home, are keen to see a lively and respectful debate here this evening. We're live here on S4C, Radio Cymru and on digital platforms also. Over in the theatre, the spin room is full of reporters poised to scrutinise the answers, and we'll continue our broadcasting from there after the debate on Facebook and on Newyddion S4C's YouTube channel. The invitation was extended for party leaders in Wales this evening, or if they didn't speak Welsh, then there was a request for a leading representative to attend. And here they are, with names drawn out of a hat to determine where they would be positioned on the stage. Paul Davies, Deputy Leader of the Welsh Conservatives. Helen Jenner, Deputy Leader of Reform UK in Wales. The Leader of Welsh Labour, First Minister Etholiad Morgan. Representing the Green Party this evening, Tessa Marshall. The Leader of Plaid Cymru, Rhina Piorwerth. And the Leader of the Welsh Liberal Democrats, Jane Dodds. Welcome to the big debate. So let's move to our first question this evening, and that comes from Ellis Broderick. Ellis, I'm here. The health service is under enormous pressure. What will you do to improve waiting lists and eliminate corridor care? So, waiting lists, corridor care, major themes in this campaign. I must go directly to Etholiad Morgan on behalf of the Labour Party. While we know that the waiting lists have been very long, I'm very pleased to see today that we've seen for 9 consecutive months that those waiting lists are coming down. That's because we've received additional funding in the past 2 years, and that's helped us to resolve the problem. We know that there's some way to go. We know also that more needs to be done around helping with corridor care. There's a need to make sure, we've paid the real living wage, for example, to people working in the care sector. And that was an important step because you could bring people out of hospital and then you can get other people in. And that's important. Of course, we have surgical hubs across Wales, 8 of those, and another coming in Llandudno, coming the coming weeks. So we've seen the figures today. If I can talk about today's figures, we have to discuss them. Jeremy Miles, the Health Secretary, has set 3 targets exactly a year ago to bring these down. You've failed on every one today. You have to admit that it's a mess for their health service, and yes, they're coming down, but not sufficiently. And you have spent £120 million in addition to get to that target. People on average don't wait more than 16 weeks now for treatment, so that's much better than when I took over as First Minister. It was 24 weeks that people waited on average during that time. And it's important to have an aim and an ambition. We hope now, over the coming weeks, we will be reaching that target. These are figures, but these are not any old health figures and targets. Have we met any targets? These are figures for February. We haven't reached the figures for the end of April yet. Before I moved on then, have you hit any health targets? No. Can I just say, they're difficult. They're really difficult. There is huge pressure on the health service. 2.7 million people get an appointment in the NHS on a monthly basis in a population of 3 million people. The pressure, the work that people in the NHS do is enormous. We've increased the number of people working in the National Health Service by 12%. We've got to move on. Thank you. I'm going to turn to Rhys Roberts. If you form a government, and certainly that's not yet clear, these are the exact figures that you're going to be inheriting. What would you do immediately to reduce waiting lists? I've got to draw my attention first of all to the huge irony that the First Minister of Labour is saying that the figures are now better than the ones that she inherited. She inherited them from herself. That's what she did, and she inherited them from one Labour minister after another. It's clear that this is a crisis. 1 in 5 on waiting list, 5,000 still waiting over 2 years for treatment. What we've done is make it clear that this is a priority. Priority number 1, over another £100 million to go into the NHS in the coming year. These hubs, these surgical hubs, in order to rush through this work of bringing the waiting lists down. But we cannot work along the principle of there being a need to throw more and more money at the service, the NHS, because it won't be there. So that's why there's a need to create an NHS and social care service that's far more sustainable. So you say that you're going to create these surgical hubs. That's going to take time, isn't it? You've also said that the waiting lists are going to come down within 1 year. So what difference would these people see immediately? We're going to get rid of those lists entirely, those over 2 years, within a year. We're going to overhalve them. We're going to do that in the next few months. You failed. You've got to be ambitious. This is a situation. We know that Labour has failed. We know that reform is a threat to the NHS. What we need is a party that's bringing new ideas to the table, that is making that investment at a preventative level in social care to make sure that the care and health system and service is sustainable. And that's how you address the problem with corridor care. Helen Jenner for Reform UK. Can I just say this totally clearly, because Plaid Cymru have been going around telling lies about our policies in terms of the NHS. We don't want to privatise the NHS. Rhys, you're obsessed with Nigel. Nigel Farage said, using Nigel Farage's own words, he doesn't believe in an NHS funded out of general taxation. It's privatisation. No, Helen Jenner, we've been absolutely clear. You bring Nigel Farage up all the time. We don't talk about Ed Davey. What about Zach Polansky? Are we going to talk about... Too many voices. Helen Jenner, I want to hear exactly what reform would do. And Nigel Farage has said that there's a need for fundamental rethinking around the NHS. But what would reform do? Because you have 5 priorities at the front of your manifesto. Health is not there. Health, of course, is a priority for us. And we have understood from the Sloman report that was commissioned by the Senedd, by you, that said that there are several things we need to fix and repair there. They have said that there's enough funding, there's enough money, just that it's been mismanaged. So certainly, many of us can agree that there are several things that we can do to improve the NHS. But what? But we have to make sure the money goes to the right places. In terms of the size of the health boards, then, you've said that they are too small. So are you going to make them bigger, are you? We need more accountability. So, for example, for a minister to be responsible for how the health boards perform, that's the thing. It's about accountability. There's not sufficient accountability that's been in the NHS, and that's true. There's plenty of money there, just that there's not enough accountability and the money isn't going to the front line. So just to be clear, North Wales, Betsy Cadwallader, the health board there has a lot of attention, and the criticism is that the health board there is too big. Reform would make it even bigger, yes? We would do whatever we need to do in terms of accountability and making sure that things work as they should. There's sufficient money there, it's just been mismanaged. That's our stance. What about the health boards? Yes, with people on the front line and nurses, doctors, people who know what's going on and consult with them and know what we need to do. But it's a priority for us, definitely, and we're not going to privatise it, Rhys. Paul Davis. Look, we have a clear plan to address the problems that exist in the National Health Service. It's disgraceful that the Labour government has failed the people of Wales now over the past 27 years. It's disgraceful that there are thousands of people still waiting 2 years for treatment compared to only hundreds in England. The Royal College of Emergency Medicine has made it quite clear that there are 1,000 people who passed away waiting for treatment in our accident and emergency departments. That is absolutely appalling. We can't continue like this, and that's why we have made it quite clear that we have a health emergency. We need to state that, declare that, and we have to increase the number of beds, because if you look at what's happened since 1999 under Labour government, the number of beds in our hospitals has decreased by 30%. That is a huge problem. So what difference will declaring a health emergency, what difference does that make? Tell us what would happen after declaring a health emergency. What that's going to do is ensure that Welsh Government resources are focused on addressing waiting lists, ensuring that people are not treated in corridors. So we're going to cut the waste. All these extra politicians, we're going to turn that around in the number of politicians. That's going to save £80 million a year. So that's where we're going to get the funding from. And this is a crisis. It's a health emergency. We have to make sure that we address this as soon as is possible. Okay, Tessa Marshall. It's clear to me that very many people who've spoken this evening already perhaps don't really use the NHS in a way. I've been waiting for 2 years just to have a hearing test. I have friends working in the NHS and they say that morale is very low. They're working really hard and they can't provide the care they want to the patients. This is what the problem is. People are not getting the care they need. So as the Green Party, we're going to look at the system because we know that there's no quick fix. It's not just like a one-trick fix, as we hear from some parties. We need to look at the system. So we will be looking at actually collecting data on the corridor care that happens, because at the moment, Tessa Marshall, that's going to take years. People want to see these waiting lists coming down immediately, don't they? There's huge pressure on whoever wins this election. And you've got to be honest, of course, and there's a need to be honest. It's not a quick fix, but by creating investment in prevention of illness, by looking at the GPs, dentists, community care centres, how we can prevent people from going into hospital in the first place, and how we can look at social care, how we can look at what's keeping people in these hospitals, and make sure that when you finish receiving your treatment that you can actually leave hospital so that more space is available for the other patients who need treatment. Jane Dodds. Thank you very much to Ellis for the question. This comes up on the doorsteps almost every time. It's really important for people here in Wales to hear what is going to make a difference to the position we find ourselves in, because it's dreadful, isn't it, to hear that people are in pain for 2 years or more. It's dreadful. And I've met some of these people, and I'm sure everyone on the panel has heard from these people who are in pain for years, and that's dreadful. What we need to do in the Liberal Democrats is ensure that there's more money going into social services. As you've heard, we have over 1,000 people in hospitals across Wales, across the whole of Wales, in hospital, who don't need to be there. They need to move out, and we have to make sure that there's more money then that goes in to help them to come out of hospital and have the opportunity to return home and be independent. And that will help the hospitals, because we'll be helping the admissions and everything else as well. So helping at the back door then, so social services. What about the front door and the crisis, the emergency there? Where's the expenditure? Because they're going to raise taxes to pay for that, but all of that goes through the back door. What's going to pay for improving the front door and the waiting lists and the accident emergency units? Well, it's the same, to be honest. If we can keep people in their homes and make sure that they get the support they need, ensure that perhaps they have that they are helped, and that will help. That will help with admissions, and it'll also help at the back door. OK, we see some hands up here. Let's go to this gentleman here in the front. Thank you very much. I receive care services at home, and the only people who do this, or 95% of them, are people from foreign countries. The only reason they're from foreign countries is that they're the only people who are willing to work for such a low salary. Of course, the Labour Party are talking about changing the visa, so they've got to work for 10 years rather than 5. I don't know what reform the Tories would do, but it appears that most of them would return home. Who would be looking after social care at home then? Thank you, very good point. I'm laughing hearing 2 years. I've been on a waiting list for 9 years now, waiting for endometriosis surgery. So I think that perhaps you should focus on services for women. Thank you very much. Another point, I could see another hand up in the front here. I was going to ask, would the government be willing to say sorry to the people they've let down on surgeries, all those thousands of people who've been waiting? And, all you're thinking about is excuses, excuses. None of you have said sorry to have let us down. Thank you very much for those points. Elliot Morgan, what about that? What about apologising? Well, I accept that there have been problems. We've come out of a pandemic. People were pleased that we came out of the pandemic slowly, and that's when the waiting lists went up. But what we're proposing, this gentleman wants an apology, doesn't he? Of course I'm willing to apologise. I've got a brother-in-law waiting for surgery. 5 years waiting for a hip surgery, and he hasn't got a penny to go privately, and it's terribly painful. I'm really sorry to hear that. Well, say sorry then, please. I'm happy to say sorry. It really touches me, and I feel that. I feel that enormously, because he's not the only one. There are people who are suffering. Some of them are from the area you look after in Pembrokeshire. I understand that, and that's why, for example, one of the things we want to do is build new hospitals. We're the only ones proposing to build 3 new hospitals, one in West Wales, one in North Wales, and one in South Wales. Who's going to pay for that? £4 billion. Where are you going to get hold of that? All the money has been earmarked clearly. Tell us then. Tell us. Hospitals are closing before building new ones. We're not going to close hospitals. Can I also say clearly that during the past 100 days, 70,000 operations have taken place. Plaid Cymru are saying that there would not be an expectation to see a change during the 100 days that they come into power if they take over. I think it's also important to note that Bangor Medical School is opened as well. Very quickly, that's nonsense. And remember, under whose control has the standard of our hospitals gone downhill so much over the past 27 years? Labour governments. Because the money didn't come from Westminster. There was no capital. No capital come in for years from San Steffan, from Westminster. I want to take on board these points then. About the lady who's waited for 9 years with endometriosis. Helen Jenner, what would you do for women's health? So, we would put together a strategy to improve women and girls' health. We've got one. Well, we would do a better one, because if somebody has to wait for 9 years to have treatment for something like that, then it's not working. There needs to be more emphasis on it, for sure. Endometriosis is in our manifesto, so I would ask you to look at that. Women's health, to me, has been vitally important. That's why we've opened centres around the whole of Wales, and endometriosis, we have endometriosis nurses across Wales, but we need to go further. That's why it's in the manifesto. Tessa Marshall, then Jane Dodds, quickly, and Paul Davis, very quickly. I think it's really easy to talk here about, we've got a plan, we've spent the money on this and that, but what we've heard is that it hasn't had an impact on the people who need it. That's why we need to look at the system, but also it means that we've got to look at the people who are actually working in the NHS. We need to make sure that the jobs in social care, as you said, it's literally only the immigrants who want to work in that area because the quality of work can be so low and the benefits from the work are low. We need to make sure that we make working in the public sector, in the NHS, in social care, we want to make them these jobs attractive to people, so we can't just give people goods, but good jobs for the children and young people of Wales. Jane Dodds, on those 2 points then. Yes, I want to return to the point made about people from overseas working in public services and in health services as well. We see so many of them, don't we? And I'm sorry to say, that reform is creating fear in those people. They are now scared, and that is dreadful. And I want to hear from Reform, please, what are you going to do about the fact that people in public services and in health also are fearful of being here if they're from overseas? That's a fact. I hear that time and again. And we've heard that perhaps they will just leave Wales. What else is a fact is that for every 5 people who come to work in care, they bring dependents with them. So that is something that we've got to deal with. Where have you got that data from? The BBC commissioned, yes it did, the BBC commissioned a review into this, and that's why the restrictions are being placed. How many people live in Wales? How many people? They bring dependents and they use the services. They bring their own people first. Can I ask very quickly, Helen Jenner, are there too many people from overseas working in the health service in Wales? So what we're saying is that we need to focus on training people at home first and then fill the gaps afterwards. It's common sense. Paul Davis. I want to come back on what Elined said earlier. She's suggesting that the money is now coming through from Westminster. That's not true, because since 2019, money to go into the health service has increased by 17% in real terms. So the money was already coming in. So, Paul Davis, the NHS doesn't need more money then, does it? It's important that the NHS does get more money. That's why we would cut the waste, as I mentioned earlier. OK, we've got lots of hands up again. Gentleman here, and there behind. I'd like to ask Tessa, you say that we need to collect data, we need to look at this and that and the other. People are dying, people are in pain. There's no time just to look and collect data. Something's got to be done about it now. People are seeing their families dying, being broken up in hospitals. It's not just time to collect data. Thank you very much. I think it's fair to say that all parties want to do their best for the health of the country, and that's where the starting line is. Hearing Crean talking about spending an additional £100 million is praiseworthy, but as someone who's been around local services and health services and social services, there is a need to revisit everything. It doesn't make any sense when you have the health authorities, the health boards working with 22 different health services, and then you create the problem of what they call bed blocking. That's a huge problem. There is over-administration in the health service. It's costly, and that money needs to be transferred back to the front line. There's far too many administrators. Thank you very much. My question is for Elined Morgan. You talk about investing more into the NHS, so why then close places like Cardigan Hospital, places for old people to go, where those old people who are stuck in hospital then have no spaces in care homes? I've got a question about, you haven't said enough about how you're going to improve things from now on in. I've got a family friend who's got an autistic child, and they've been waiting for 7 years, and in that time he was expelled from school, he didn't get the treatment that he needed to improve. So what kind of compensation are you going to give to people like this who've been through so much over 7 years? Thank you very much. Front row here then. To come back to treatment for women, will transgender women be included in these treatments, because there's talking about excluding them from spaces for women because of the fact that they are transgender? And also in the front row here. Question for all of you, following everybody else's points about family. In your manifestos, I haven't seen anything, well, not much anyway, about carers. So what are you going to do for carers, particularly young carers, not just people who work as family carers? And in the back there? There's so much wastage, as has been mentioned, and one of the things that concerns many people is the lack of access to seeing their GP. And that means, and we've all had these experiences, that means that you go to the accident emergency departments in hospitals. They're chock-a-block full, they're like the third world. You know, we've all had these experiences, and it's really sad for me that nobody's talking about the wastage of paying too much for agency nurses. They're huge costs. So we've got loads of questions there. Thank you so much. I know we don't have time for everybody to answer everything, but I'm just going to ask Tessa Marshall about the data question. Is that a fair point? There's no time to collect data. I think it's easy to say, like, we're just going to make that change quickly, and it's impossible to do it. We need to collect the data because at the moment we don't even know what's happening. How can we create effective change and spend money effectively if we don't know what's happening on the corridors? If we ask every time someone is treated in the corridor, the hospital needs to write a report and they say they were treated in the corridor because there was no hospital no hospital bed, or there was no bed because somebody had not been able to leave the hospital, then we know that we need to make sure that there is more social care, so we can then get more people to leave hospital and we can get more beds, so we can take the right intervention for the right problem. If we don't even understand what the problem is, then we can't get the right intervention. So primary care is really important, very important. We have a plan to employ an additional 100 GPs, particularly looking at the out-of-hours services to take that pressure off the emergency care services. But also we have to bear in mind the need to take action, as I said, in a preventative way and move money. Start the work immediately of moving money towards primary care. Almost all of it, 90% plus of our connection with the health service happened through primary care, through the GP, through the local pharmacist and so forth. So we have to increase expenditure there. And one quick point from Jane Dodds, please. So just, a quick point. Young carers, you're so important to us. We have to make sure that unpaid carers are treated the same as people who are paid as carers. You're so vitally important to us, and thank you very much for the work you do. We've got to move on now then to the second question this evening, and that comes from Llywela Wharton. Llywela. The cost of living is affecting so many of us, and lots of us are struggling. How can we trust you to make sure that we have more money in our pockets? Can I ask you, Llywela, are you feeling that things really are difficult at the moment? Are you struggling? Yes. I'm a mum of 4. I work full-time. I'm also doing a university course in Bangor University, and things are really tight. What would you like to see them doing for you then to help? Put more money in our pockets, bring our bills down. Think more about our shopping, about staff and everything else, everything we need in our community. Transport, small things that are going to make so many changes. Thank you, Llywela. Helen Jenner. So clearly, the cost of living is a problem, a really bad problem in Wales, and people of Wales are overtaxed. And you really need money back in your pockets. So what we're saying is that we want to take 1 penny off the pound, off every tax band, so that more money is put back into your pockets. Also, our energy bills are so high because of net zero. So that adds so much on top of our bills. We pay the highest electricity prices, the most expensive electricity prices in the world, 6 times more than what America are paying. If we move away from net zero and that net zero target that we cannot deliver anyway, then the bills will be able to come down. So we have to think about common sense before ideology. On taxation, Helen Jenner, you want to cut taxes for everybody. The Welsh Governance Centre has said this week that 90% who will benefit most are the richest in Wales. Why give it to everybody then? Do the people who earn more really need that? Well, I agree with that, and I think that if everybody have more money, then they are able to invest, they are able to develop their businesses, they are able to employ more people. So it has a knock-on effect, and we want to do it across all bands because we feel that that makes more sense. In addition to that as well, what we want to do is save money for people. For example, we spend so much money on foreign projects like the offices we have overseas that cost us around £5 million a year. Add that for how long? Can I ask? That would save £9 million a year, which could employ 200 nurses. That wouldn't keep the NHS going. We know that the funding is there for the NHS, but if we look at the cost of living, we have to think about getting rid of the vanity projects. That's not going to improve the NHS. Well, there's money to be released there for sure. You also want to get rid of over 200 quangos, these bodies, the arm's-length bodies. How much money would that save? We've worked out it's about 135 million. We don't want to get rid of them, let's be clear on that, with all of the services they offer. But it's about bringing accountability back to the Senedd, ministers responsible for things like that. Because the thing is, we can... The chief execs of some of these quangos are on 170,000 a year. We don't need to pay people who are not accountable in quangos that much money when we can't employ people such as nurses. You've said this throughout the campaign. Can we just be clear then here, Helen Jenner and Reform UK? You want to bring these quangos into the state. Well, we want to get rid of the ones that we don't need and then bring the services that we do need under a minister to make sure that there's accountability. And you want to get rid of 600 civil servants, but you'll be creating more than that by bringing the quangos in. There will be a plan to redeploy very many people, and we're talking about these people, 170,000 for a chief exec of something like Natural Resources Wales. That's just despicable. We can't afford it. Tessa Marshall. To be honest, I hadn't really heard anything there that would bring the bills down. So what we would do is take direct action as quickly as possible, literally from day one, to freeze rents, because at the moment rents are too high. People are paying 2/3 or 3/4 of their salaries on rent. We would freeze rents and then we would look at the rental system and create rent caps. People would just take the houses off the market and rent them. We would bring in a system of a £1 token for buses, because at the moment a bus ticket can go up to £5 just for a single fare. And we would also be looking at the system. We'd also be looking at the system that we would be changing council tax system. Council tax is the largest tax that people in Wales pay, and we would change it to a land value tax. So the people with the most land will pay more. Can I just ask you, there are no costs. The IFS, the financial institution recognised globally, has said that you don't have any kind of costings and that they are aspirations, wishes, desires. But where's the idea of costs then for the Green Party? We know that the IFS doesn't like our manifesto because we want to see a move from the system that they support, which is capitalism, which takes money out of Wales. We want to move to a system where people of Wales are not exploited by these bigger systems. But we've done the costings for the land value tax, for the penny for the £1 ticket, and they said the IFS said nobody else had costed anything either. So if they can answer, then we can answer. We can see hands going up here at the back and then at the front here. Right at the back then. If we can get there. OK, so the Green Party said about putting a cap on rent. Well, people are just going to sell their houses, aren't they? So people who live in those houses, where are they going to go? And then this land value tax, has any consideration been given to farmers and rural communities there at all? Thank you. I was going to ask a similar question. If 80% of land in Wales is owned by farmers, does that mean that you expect the farmers then to pay tax for everybody else? Thank you very much. And here? Just a couple of points on the cost of living. One of the reforms plans is, it talks about putting money in people's pockets. Well, one of their plans is to freeze civil servants' pay. And the vast majority of grades, they're talking about delegated grades in their manifesto, that is the majority of civil servants in the civil service, apart from the top tier. So not a lot of money in their pockets. And another point on the energy bills. Energy bills are high because the bill is connected to gas, isn't it? It's linked to gas. And as it happens, who funds lots of reform? Well, the oil companies and so forth. So there you are. I want to take Helen Jammer. You can come back on that. Thank you. One other point. I want to understand better. There's loads of extraction, loads of money being taken out of Wales, particularly in the rural country, in the rural part of the country. Food, energy, huge money is created. How do you intend to give that to the community, for the community to really grasp it and create this for themselves and keep that net zero, because we really need it? That's the future. This is a big picture. It's not just for now. There's a very specific point there for Tessa, and then we'll go around the panel. Thank you. Very quickly then, please. On the farmers, we have said that farmers will not count in land value tax because we know that it's actually about 90% of the land of Wales is owned by farmers. We know how important you are to the economy of Wales and for the rural economy of Wales. You are our backbone, and we really do want to support the farmers to make sure that your businesses can work. OK, going back to cost of living then, specifically, and taxes and the points that have been raised about energy and prices and bills. Paul Davis. Well, you want more money back in your pockets. We have made it quite clear that we will extend childcare, free childcare between 9 months and age 4. You said you've got 4 children, so we would extend that package. That would cost around 100 million per year, so we'd be able to fund that, because what they spend in England is about 150 million pounds comes to Welsh Government, so we would be able to cover that very easily. We would also want to cut a penny in the pound on basic income tax, not the higher rate, but on basic income tax. That would put more money back into your pockets as well. That would be worth about £450 every year for every family. We've also made it quite clear that we would cap council tax, because I think that many people find it challenging to pay council tax. We've made it quite clear that we would cap council tax at 5%, and if local authorities wanted to increase it more than 5%, then they would have to ask you, the people, if you wanted that rate to be increased. So, Paul Davis, you're promising lots of tax cuts there. You also want to improve the M4, improve the A55, build a bridge over the new river, over the Menai. These are huge projects, the Menai Strait. So that question, they are long-term projects, aren't they? But when it comes to the M4 Relief Road, for example, of course we would use some of the capital budget for Welsh Government to do that, but also we would expect the United Kingdom Government to fund some of that project, because that's a highways project for the United Kingdom, and so that's why the UK Government should also take some level of responsibility for it. Ellie Ned Morgan, on living costs and money in our pockets then. I think people are suffering at the moment. I think people are struggling across our country, and the war in the Middle East is not helping. Energy prices have gone up. You've had a little bit of help now in terms of capping it, but I'm worried that we'll see a change, and that's why it's important that we look towards the future and that we develop a Wales that is independent in terms of generating our own energy. That is why we've seen a development such as Wilfa in North Wales. That's going to help to create lots of jobs. That will help to put money in people's pockets. It's interesting to see that there's not a word heard about Wilfa in the Plaid Cymru manifesto. I think it's important also, in terms of you having 4 children, hopefully you've seen a difference in terms of free school meals. That helps with £600 per year and free prescriptions. But Etholiad Morgan, have you really tackled living costs? You eliminated the child poverty target, didn't you, entirely? You've delayed the homelessness target, so your record suggests that you haven't tackled living costs. Well, we haven't got all the levers. For example, one of the things that we've been pushing the United Kingdom government on was to get rid of the two-child benefit cap. And that now has gone. That's going to help 70,000 children in Wales out of poverty. But what we're proposing next time is a cap of £2 to travel on the bus in Wales. We're going to help with childcare, affordable childcare, and we're going to charge highly paid staff, particularly those who support staff in school. We're going to raise their level of pay. So hopefully that will all be a practical help. I think we've got to be practical at a time where people are working really hard and they're still struggling. So that's what's important. It's important that we help those people, particularly those who are really making the biggest effort. Llywela, thank you very much for the question. People with the least very often are the ones who are suffering, isn't it? And we have had all these years of austerity and then decisions, cruel decisions made by the new Labour government. We think about the things that have deteriorated, the unlawful war against Iran, supported, of course, by Reform. I think about the proposal that the leader of Reform in Wales made, proposing the Barnett formula, actually praising Liz Truss's dreadful budget. That's the standard of Reform's understanding of how we help people in Wales, people who are in need, how we would help them. We're talking first about the most generous childcare offer in the United Kingdom with £30,000. It's an offer for children between the age of 9 months. Thinking about prescriptions, extending free school meals into the secondary sector, building on the work that's been done thanks to Plaid Cymru in terms of primary free school meals. But of course, the Westminster government also has lots of levers, particularly around energy. In terms of costs, then, no party here has declared its costs fully. Are you confident? You've said this morning that you're very confident that the money is there, but do you recognise that there will be a need to cut back? The IFS is saying that they are ambitious, but there will be a need to cut back. Of course, we recognise the challenges without a shadow of a doubt. It's about reprioritisation. I don't think anybody in this audience expects, if I were to become First Minister, that I would want to continue to do what Labour has been doing, because it hasn't been working. So it's a matter of reprioritising is what this would be, and focusing all the time on what makes a difference to people's lives, not simply how much we spend. This £7 billion has been spent on tackling poverty that can be spent far better, because a third of all children in Wales are still living in poverty. You're going to provide childcare to millionaires in Wales. That's not progressive. Is the First Minister questioning her own principle of universality around prescriptions, that everybody gets a free prescription? When money is tight, I think you're on shaky ground there as First Minister. You've got to make choices. And the point is, you haven't made a choice, have you, Rhyn? What you're saying is what you're going to do. What you're not saying is you're not being honest with people about where those cuts are going to come. There are services that you depend on today that will not be there tomorrow because we don't know where they're going to be cut. Etholiad Morgan's problem is that her government has failed for the past 27 years, and she doesn't like the fact that there's now a plan in place, including on matters such as childcare, where there is a government incoming, if we are given your support, that will set a higher level of ambition for you. People just want to see action to bring bills down. This is just embarrassing.
Jane Dodds.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question, Llywela. It's really important that we hear the situation you're in. In the short term, we have a dreadful situation now, don't we, with the war in Iran and Ukraine, and that's affecting the world. We have to pay more for petrol and diesel, and the Westminster government, UK government, takes £20 million in addition because of the war. Where does that have to go? That has to go into people's pockets, people like you. And we also want to provide more childcare. We want to see the economy improving. We want more people to get more people having work here, particularly young people. That's important. Can I say another one thing as well, please? Can I say the parties who want to cut taxes and defend public services, to be honest, they are telling lies. It's not possible. Our public services are under enormous pressure, and they want to take more money away from them. And to come back also, if I may, everybody else has had an opportunity to come back. In terms of community energy, it's really important, isn't it, that the energy is retained in the community. And also the parties that are saying, we want to get rid of the net zero targets. That's terrible, because our planet is in difficulty. Our planet's on fire. It's important for us to take action. For us to be clear on taxes, you're the only party here this evening that's saying you're willing to raise taxes. We don't know, would you do that? Do you want the power to do that? We want the powers to be able to set a taxation system that works for Wales, increasing it. We don't have the powers to do that. What we want is to be able to help people who are in the greatest need through a system that's fair. So reducing taxes, increasing taxes, you're not sure. So for how long? You've said that you'll increase it. How long for? Can I explain this fully, please? We have a crisis in social care. We've touched on that. We are honest, absolutely honest with the public. If the money is not in the budget from Westminster or in the Senedd budget, we want to see 1 penny on taxation just to make sure that that goes into public services for a time to bring the numbers of people in hospital across Wales down. That's what we want to see. Jane Dodds, thank you very much. OK, let's move then to our next question, and that's from Meryl Evans. Meryl. Thank you. There have been politicians in Cardiff Bay for over 25 years now, and they often disappoint the people of Wales. Does the Senedd need more powers to ensure that Wales can move forward? What do you think, Meryl? More powers? Do you want to see more powers coming into Wales? Wales standing on its own 2 feet? Exactly. Independence is what I'd like to see, to be honest. And I would think that we need more powers for that. OK, so you want independence? Pretty smart, then. I've waited long enough, Bethan. Yes. There are people here who are ready for it. And I share that aspiration, and I have done throughout my life. I believe that Wales is better than we have at the moment. And I want to set, as I say, a higher level of ambition for ourselves. And that means being brave enough to take the decisions for ourselves in terms of steering our own future as a country, like all other normal countries in the world. Of course, there are steps that we can take immediately now. We had the Independent Commission on the Constitutional Future of Wales that stated that some things have to be done to take the powers for railways, for example, powers for police forces, for example, taking over the powers for our own natural resources so that we can take advantage of and benefit the tidal energy and the wind off our coasts here in Wales. I believe in that in Wales, and what we have in this election, Lib Dems, Labour, Reform and Conservatives saying every day how bad Wales is and how hopeless it is. That's not true. Don't tell lies. The Lib Dems. To be absolutely clear, there's an aspiration among some here for independence. You're passionate about that. Why are you parking the idea now then for this election? Because it'll be the people of Wales to decide. I thought if we were to ask the question now, people wouldn't be ready for it. That's why there's a need for leaders in politics and in our communities, people like Meryl, ready to put the case forward. And what I'm proposing through the time is thinking, how do we take a step forward? By taking powers, yes, but by being brave enough to look outside and beyond that journey. And why? So Scotland want a referendum in 2028. If that were to happen, would you need to change your view and move quicker then? There's no doubt that what's happening in the world around us has an impact on people's views. The decision to leave the European Union has strongly strengthened our aspirations. What could happen in Scotland? What could happen if, it's difficult to imagine, but if someone like Nigel Farage were to become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, but it's a threat to Wales. I am going to continue to remind people of that. Let us be brave enough in ourselves as a country to take the lead for ourselves. Helen Jenner. So, how much is that going to cost, independence? You talk there that you want independence, but you don't want it quite yet, and you want to ask people, but you're not quite sure when it's going to happen, and how much it's going to cost. If people are struggling with cost of living, how can we actually focus on the idea of independence? What about that question? How much did Brexit cost? I don't accept that. I don't accept that. I don't accept that. The problem with Brexit, of course you don't accept that. We had the chance. We had the chance to take back control, to make something of it, but nobody wanted to. People wanted it to fail. The wrong people got the powers back. That's what happened with Brexit. So I don't accept that at all. Helen Jenner. Does the Senedd have too many powers as it stands? I think that we don't need any more devolved powers. It's complicated. It makes things more complicated. And what it also does is it's just for the sake of it. It's just for the sake of, doing what you want. We need to focus on what people are concerned about. Cost of living, the NHS. We need to focus on education. For example, we've got the worst education results in the United Kingdom. We've got the worst health outcomes in the United Kingdom. So I don't think that we need more powers. You want to cut benefits? Why not ask for powers then for Cardiff? Do you want to cut immigration? Why not ask for powers for Cardiff? What about that? Immigration is not devolved. But do you want the powers? No. No, I don't think that makes sense at all.
Jane Dodds.
Jane Dodds. Yes, thank you very much for the question, Meryl. It's really important that we have the opportunity to talk about this evening. I just want to respond to Rhyn. We in the Liberal Democrats don't want independence. We want to see a good relationship with the United Kingdom. It's not perfect, as the relationship between the UK and the EU was. We didn't want to leave the European Union either. We want to remain in the United Kingdom. We want to collaborate and work together, and we want more powers as well. What Rhyn is talking about is the fact that we don't want more money to be spent on independence. As you've heard, we have a terrible situation in our public services, and Plaid Cymru wants to spend more money, and we don't accept that at all. On considering the constitutional future of Wales, it's not very liberal, of course, to refuse to have a discussion on something, is it, Jane? How much would that cost, this white paper, Rhyn ap Iorwerth? Well, we're talking about a very, very small sum of money, because this builds on work that's already been done. A few $100,000, really, out of a budget of not far off 30 billion. But there has been work undertaken. This looks at what steps we could take in order to empower ourselves as a country. Not independence, that's part of our future. It's about how we can take control over our police forces. We in Wales are now directly paying over half the money that goes into the police coffers, and yet we don't have any control over how the police in Wales work. These things are things that need to be discussed, Jane. What about the discussion then? Right now, can I ask you, he's going to spend, if he wins, more than a penny on independence, because this white paper will be started. So you're closing the door on any kind of deal with Plaid Cymru. We're very clear about red lines. Not just 1 penny on independence, but we want more money into our rivers, more into public services, more money into childcare. Everybody's focusing on this, and Rhyn is focused on this. But you've closed the door on discussion. It's unfortunate. It's not up to us. But are you going to spend more than a penny on independence, aren't you? It's not up to us. How to develop our country for the future? Yes. Eluned Morgan. Welsh Labour is the party of devolution. I'm proud that it was Welsh Labour who started it, who developed it, and now I'm very proud that we're going to extend the Senedd. I think we're moving in the right direction. And I do think also that there is work to be done in terms of extending the powers. But I don't want to see us cutting away from the rest of the United Kingdom. I do think that that would be extremely costly to our country. I think that we are stronger together, working together. I think the cost for all families would be enormous. It's interesting, isn't it, that Plaid Cymru want independence, but before going, they want England to pay for it. It's a contradiction right at the heart of Plaid Cymru. Somebody needs to explain to Eluned Morgan what independence means. If you want to be dependent, yes, but I don't. You're asking for more money from England because they tell us the United Kingdom is being fair with us, and if it is, show us. More money comes to Wales than they have per capita in England. I think what's interesting is that Plaid Cymru and other parties, really, have chosen to have a constitutional argument. Can I give you an example? Around the people of Wales's worry. So recently there was a vote in the Senedd where we were asked to help to safeguard people who work in our shops in retail. All the other parties voted against that because they wanted a constitutional debate. That's not the Wales I want to be part of. So you also want more parties, Eluned Morgan. You want the Crown Estate, police services, justice, young people. Keir Starmer in Downing Street says no to all of those. Why then isn't he giving the powers that you, the Labour leader in Wales, want? Why is he refusing you? There are always going to be tensions between the two parties. That's okay. You're not two parties. You're not two parties. Devolution. We are Welsh Labour. We are Welsh Labour. Know your Labour. I will always put our country before my party. That's what's important, particularly when you were the First Minister of Wales. Yes, you're in the same party as Keir Starmer. I'm proud of that, but I do think it's important to stand up for Wales and to make sure that I tell him absolutely clearly when I don't agree with him. I didn't agree with him when we didn't receive the right funding for the railways. I asked him to help to develop Wilfa. He came forward and gave £2.5 billion extra. We also asked for help to clear the coal tips. He's come in and helped, but there are times when he hasn't helped, and I will still ask. I'll keep asking. I'm not going to apologise for that. Paul Davies. Well, of course, Pryn doesn't want to talk about independence because he knows that it's unpopular in this election. And if Pryn wants independence, then he's got to answer three basic questions. Firstly, how are you going to pay? Because the IFS have said that there will be a gap of about 12 to 15 billion pounds between what we earn in Wales and what we spend in Wales. What kind of money are we going to make use of, and how are you going to protect us? Because you don't want to be a full member of NATO either. So you've got to answer these questions before Wales can be independent. I'll email the reports on all of those to Paul Davies if he wants to see them. Tell us now. The question is this. What is our position within the United Kingdom? Is there more that the UK government could do to show that the United Kingdom is one which is equal? At the moment, I don't see it as being the case, and I will always make the case for equity and fairness for Wales, but the other parties are not willing to do that. Reform have even argued that we shouldn't be getting the £4.5 billion that Wales is owed because of the railways. I want to bring Tessa Marshall in here. Thanks for the question, because it's really exciting, actually. It's something I'm really passionate about, because I'm 29. A large number of my friends have left Wales because the jobs and the future is not here. We know that we need to create a stronger system, and therefore in the manifesto we're talking about devolving water, railways and broadcasting, and personally to me the exciting thing is about devolving law and policing, because we know that we need to change the system. Also, if we devolve water, we will be able to make Ddadl Cymru, Welsh water, we can nationalise that, because this is really important, because at the moment 40% of our water bills go towards paying their debt. If we have powers over those areas, then we bring in skills, we bring resources, and we bring jobs to Wales. These things are all really important for the future. Sister Marshall, have you got a timetable for independence, how far along you are, how quickly you want to go? We know that we want to create a firm foundation in our civic society before we become independent. Most people don't even know that the voting system has changed. How can we become independent if we don't even have a strong civic society? Lots of hands up here. OK, let's move to the gentleman in blue there, please. Can I go back to these wind farms? Because the Pembroke Gas Works is creating 250 megawatts and Wales uses 1,600 megawatts. So every wind mill in Wales, and there are 60 sites now powering England, they want to bring in 70 new wind farms with windmills the height of the Eiffel Tower. They're huge and they're going to be providing power to England. Look at gridwatch.co.uk. It's like a yo-yo. How the wind is not going to power anything. Diesel and petrol cars will be on our roads in the year 2050 because we don't have the wind power and solar power to fuel these. Thank you very much. A hand up here. In stripes there. Thank you. Stripes. Lady here in stripes. Thank you. We've got to admit, all of us, that Wales is treated differently. Some argue unfairly compared to people in England and in Scotland. Without even talking about independence, we have to admit that there's a need for us to look at ensuring that there's an equal playing field across the whole United Kingdom before we even talk about independence, because Wales is treated as a substandard, looking at roads, highways, railways, health and education. The per capita funding for Wales is not equal. So before we talk about independence, what's going to be done to make sure that Wales is treated equally? And next door then? Question for Reform UK. Nigel Farage said in 2016 that the United Kingdom would save £350 million from Brexit. He was lying then, he's lying now. You're playing with people's minds. I'll answer that. So basically, you're talking about the red bus. We've heard so much about this bus. It was Boris Johnson that came up with the slogan of 350. I know this because Boris Johnson had the Leave vote. Farage had the grassroots out. Two different campaigns. I was with grassroots out. So I'm fed up of Nigel Farage being blamed for the red bus. OK, let's go back to the question. Brexit is not part of this election, but it raises its head quite often. So a couple of other questions. So points quickly, and then the lady there. Just a quick point, in the sense about asking about what the problem is in the Senedd. For me, it's a disappointment to see these 66 parties here tonight. I think the standard in the Assembly is not good enough. The standard of the politicians is not good enough. And I've been voting for Plaid Cymru throughout my life, but unfortunately, Plaid Cymru have left me behind. They've moved to the more extreme left. There is another party that's not been selected here this evening, which is the Gwlad Party. They're nationalists, they're Welsh speakers, and they want us to have our own identity and our living language to keep living. I'm the only one who's been invited here, and I'm really disappointed with S4C that you're not permitting the Gwlad Party, that are different to all of these, to be here. And just on self-governance, can I say these are the 6 largest parties in Wales. That's who these are. The way that we've selected this very carefully. You've made your point. Sorry, let's go to Rhun ap Iorwerth, please. 58 countries have got self-governance from England, and none of them are here. OK, you've made your point. You want to move more quickly. Rhun ap Iorwerth, there are people here who want to move more quickly on independence. Yes, there are, including Meryl there. It should always be the people of Wales who decide on the future of our country. We're setting aspirations, setting a level of ambition, asking people to be brave about what we could do. But think about what we're doing today on health and education and creating jobs and the childcare offer and so forth. We've got things that we need to do in government immediately if we can build. Let's take this point then. It's very close to the question, and that is about treating Wales equally in terms of funding. Paul Davies, the point made at the back there. before independence, before anything else, what would you do to ensure that the money and, people are saying it's currently unfair. I accept that point. If you look back, I have been campaigning to change the Barnett formula, for example. I've been saying that for many years now. Of course, I failed to persuade my party at the time, but I think we've got to look at that to make sure that there is fair funding for Wales, because that's how we're going to keep the United Kingdom together. What would you do to fund Wales differently, Jane Dodds? Well, we have to see more money coming in, and I've spoken about what the UK government is doing. They just put money in the pockets, and we are hearing Labour and from Etholiad saying that we don't have much influence really over Keir Starmer, but we want that funding, and we want to ensure that the next government is strong with Welsh Government. We want the Crown Estate to come into Wales as well. We want to see money from HS2 coming into Wales, and I just want to respond to Rhys saying, he says that we, the other parties, we talk Wales down. That's not true at all. We want to see Wales being a better country, and that's the reason why I'm standing here this evening. Thank you very much. We're going to move on now then to the next question, and that comes this evening from Aled Thomas. Aled. Thank you. I'm a farmer. How are you going to ensure that there's a future for people like me and for rural communities in Wales? How do you feel then as a farmer at the moment, Aled? Are the politicians? Is the government treating you fairly? No, I don't think so. We've got a problem with TB at the moment. Nothing's been done about it. This SFS is not fit to go to people in Wales at the moment. Inheritance taxes come in now. There's nothing to help anybody. We've got things coming in our way all the time. I know that net zero is important, but these people need to be fed first. Thank you very much. So the SFS is the Sustainable Farming Scheme. There's perhaps a lot of discussion around that. Tessa Marshall, then, what's important here? Nature, the environment, or farmers making a living? I think these are not different things. They are all intertwined, because we know at the moment that the farmers are actually losing money because of extreme weather, with flooding, with drought. These are all affecting stocks. So we know we have to see that the SFS can work for farmers. We know that we've had 7 years since Brexit happened, and this scheme should have been developed much more quickly than it was, to give you the certainty, because no business can run when there's no certainty. But we know that because of climate change, there's a need for us to ensure that we work with you, we work with farmers, and create a future where people can work in rural areas, in good jobs. At the moment, the average age of farmers is over 60. Why are people leaving farming? We need to look at that and make sure that we create jobs, good jobs in farming, where people can farm the land, where the people of Wales can stay on the land, and where we can bring nature back as well. This is really important. It's important that all of this happens in partnership, because it hasn't happened in partnership and isn't happening in partnership at the moment. And we've heard you, because I've been working with farmers, I've been working in the environmental sector, and I've seen the destruction that's happening. We need to put a firm foundation in place and certainty for farming businesses. Paul Davies. Look, agriculture is the backbone of rural Wales. And we have to remember also that for every pound that's invested in the agricultural industry, some £9 benefit is generated towards the wider economy, and we shouldn't forget that. Also, the agriculture industry is really important to the Welsh language, because 43% of people who are involved in agriculture are Welsh speakers, compared to around 20% in the general population. So we shouldn't forget that. We must boost the agricultural industry. I think that's why in our manifesto we've made it quite clear that we will increase the farming budget by £100 million over the next Senedd term. Also, we've said that we would want to ensure that food security is central to the Sustainable Farming Scheme. And unfortunately, yes, the current government has changed that, but they haven't changed it enough. What about the net zero target then? Is that important? The gentleman asked a question about TB in cattle. Now, this is important. This is really important. We've got to address this disease not only in cattle but also in wildlife as well. We have to do that because if you look in England, where they have dealt with it within wildlife, the rate of TB in cattle has reduced 56%. We've got to have a government that's willing to take action. I have been saying this now for over 20 years. I know what pressure the TB disease places on farmers and farms. We've got to address this disease as soon as possible, and whoever will be forming the next government, it's important that they tackle this. Eluned Morgan.
Well, Brexit.
Well, Brexit had a massive impact on agriculture, that's clear. But on top of that, I do think that since then, we had to reorganise how we look after agriculture in Wales, because before that, the money would come in directly from Brussels. What's happened is that there's been a long discussion with the farming unions right at the beginning. They were very unhappy, but things have changed over the years. It has taken years. £350 million is invested in agriculture in Wales. That's not a small sum. It's important in terms of food production, of course, but it's also important that there's a role for protecting the environment. And there's nobody better at doing that than farmers. And on top of that, but do you feel as a government that you perhaps misunderstood the industry? You know, there was a need to realign funding post-Brexit. You planned the sustainable farming scheme, and yet you've had to change that absolutely fundamentally. Do you understand the agricultural industry? I think it's important that we do listen, and we've shown that we are listening. But on top of that, I think it's important to outline that in rural Wales, it's more. There's more than agriculture. One of the things that we've proposed is that we develop rural economic development that understands that there's more around agriculture than just farming. The farmers are vitally important, but it's far wider than that. Let's go back to Aled to ask the question. I understand that point, but you've got to hold companies like Welsh Water who put their waste into our rivers and then point the finger at us and say that we're the problem. Why are you not holding them to account? And, you know, you say about these other things in rural countries. Our butchers' shops are closing, the small shops are closing in our towns, and they're being filled by vape shops. Why then are you not looking after the small businesses in Wales instead of the businesses that are not needed in our towns? You've got to look after the things that are important to the backbone of Wales instead of just filling shops with any old rubbish. At the frontier, and then back to Eluned Morgan. The 2 points I have to make are, one is that you talked about Brexit. I don't know if you want to talk any more about it, but if anything, 3 industries at home: beef, meat, eggs, dairy. You know, there's a free economy we live in. Those economies, you know, just don't have. We've plenty of demand for them, but not enough supply. You can't blame Brexit for that because the farming is going all right. The other thing is on TB. Last year you spent 45 million, if I'm correct, on TB, 25 million on compensation, roughly 18 million on admin for fees on vets, and 2 or 3 million on researchers. So 45 million, you know, this has been since you've been in power and nothing has changed. Also now you, Labour Party, you want to come out with new BVD regulations with TB. So that's something else that you're putting pressure on milk farmers. And you haven't solved any problems yet alone bringing more in. NVZs, that's another one. That's a classic sign. There's no mention of NVZs now. I got a report here now that they're still blaming farmers for polluting rivers and NVZs in regulations. Thanks to the points. Point on agriculture. I'd like to know what you would do about slurry techniques and so forth, because our land has been impacted because slurry is flowing into it, and it's destroyed our forest, it's destroyed the tracks and the rivers. But also, I'd like to know, there's talk about investment in nuclear energy in Wales, and I'd like to know, why are you doing this, and why are you choosing something that's creating radioactive waste rather than a tidal lagoon, or using wind and solar energy to power the country? It's something that stirs me, this idea of having a Plaid Cymru government that understands and supports agriculture. I must declare an interest here. My own son is a group of Welsh students studying in Harper Adams in a degree in agriculture at the moment, and he's somebody who wants to have a career in agriculture. We have to make sure that the government takes all steps possible to show an appreciation of agriculture because of its contribution in terms of food generation, food security, in terms of our society, in terms of our economy, our rural economy, and this whole idea of rural resilience. You're absolutely right, Aled. It's really important how to make sure that these chains, the farmers feed the shop, the butchers, it's so key, isn't it? And what we're saying is, very clearly, we want to follow the evidence, and that's on TB, including nature, following the evidence on NVZ. It doesn't make any sense to me that we're asking farmers to farm according to the calendar. We're willing to use the technology that's available in order to resolve the environmental problem as well. In my experience, and I put my hand on my heart, the farmers that I know well, I know some farmers in my own family, they want to farm in the most environmentally responsible possible way. What the government needs to do is show that environmental responsibility and help and work alongside agriculturists to make sure that they can farm in a way which is sustainable financially and economically for their businesses and for the planet in which we live. I'm totally sure that that's possible. So the sustainable farming scheme, do you want to revise it? No, we've got the scheme because we had to have it because Brexit happened. That's what the scheme we have is. It's been able to be strengthened. I take a lot of praise. Some within Plaid Cymru worked with the farming unions and farmers to succeed in persuading it to be changed from tree planting to a number of other issues. But there's still a need for this to be evolved. It's about making sure that bureaucracy is cut where it possibly can be to permit the farmers to farm in the most effective way, while, as I say, while taking environmental responsibility as well. Those two things can both be done. I've no doubt about that. Jane Dodds. Well, I agree with a lot of what's been said, but I'll to go back to your question. Farmers in Wales are the best in the world, and we have to make sure that they get the right support. I'm not sure that Cardiff understands that, to be honest. You are the profession that knows, as we've heard, about the environment. You know better than any other profession. On top of what's been said, you've had years of uncertainty. That is clear, and that affects your mental health, and that's dreadful. So we want to make sure that there is certainty through the funding. We want to see there being a programme for young farmers. We want to see that there's some kind of system to give you an assurance over your food. I don't think we pay enough for our food here in Wales. It costs more. You produce a lot, so is it about raising costs? We need to look at the food strategy, but it's about working alongside farmers like you, Aled. Okay, and wind farms. And we had a question earlier about wind farms and energy, nuclear wind farms. Is that the future? Where do you stand as a party on energy? We want to see everything happening, but not wind farms of the scale you've talked about on the land. We have to see the wind farms offshore, and we want to see tidal, as you've said. We want to see more of them happening. It's really disappointing that the Conservatives pulled out of the Swansea Tidal Lagoon, and so we've missed out on years following that. We want to see there being a programme for everything. The world is on fire, and we have to see everything, but we have to make sure that our communities, that the communities own own this energy. So, how do you support these rural communities, Helen Jenner? I've been speaking to these communities, and I've got a farmer who's come with me this evening in the spin room as we're speaking, and they are being hammered. That's what I'm hearing. They are being hammered, and they're drowning in paperwork. And the SFS, there is too much focus on net zero and the environment, not enough on food production. So farmers need to be allowed to just focus on producing food. From what I've heard, the SFS is not fit for purpose, okay? It's good for nothing. And also, so what would you put in its place then? We want to revise it to make it make sense, to it not be enforced on farmers. I've heard from farmers they've got to plant a certain amount of trees on their land, and that doesn't depend how much land they have, but they've got to plant, I think this is right, the same number of trees, regardless of how much land they have. So that's totally stupid. It's very lazy politics. You know, these NVZs, they're relevant to some farmers, not to others. So this blanket rule, you know, there's over-control, and the SFS, they are being hammered, and they need to focus on food production. Paul Davies made the point earlier that a large number of rural communities are Welsh-speaking communities. So are you concerned about Welsh-speaking communities? Yes, people are leaving. And we know today that the number of Welsh speakers, for example, has dropped 52,000 over the past 2 years. As a party, you want to get rid of the million Welsh speaker target. What we've said about that is that we need the opportunities for young people to be able to stay in Wales, because it's about 80% of them who have to leave to get jobs over the border, so the language goes with them. So we definitely, as a Welsh speaker myself, and as a Welsh speaker, I didn't have Welsh at home. I learned Welsh at school, and I'm absolutely certain I want to support bilingual schools and Welsh schools. Targets usually don't work out very well. I understand the idea of having an ambition, but we want to see, you know, the practicalities between making sure that people are encouraged to speak the language and that we keep our young people, because if there's no language, there's no jobs, there's no language. So can I ask how you felt as a Welsh speaker hearing Nigel Farage saying that, you know, that was a joke? That was a joke and a cameo. It was scripted and it was a joke. I know Nigel Farage. He doesn't look down his nose at Welsh speakers. I know that for a fact. So did you laugh at the joke? Well, it wasn't a joke that I would have told, but it was a joke. Okay? He received money for it. That's it. Okay, we've got lots of hands here. Let's go to the front here. I don't trust parties. And also, Wales as an independent identity, and we want to have traditional Welsh communities here and Welsh identity. Thank you very much. Wales needs to focus on traditions then. I know that it might only have been a joke, but it's really not, is it? You need to remember that this is the Senedd election. To make that joke, you know, he took it that everybody was going to see it. So why didn't somebody in that room take, you know, how can you take that on when we're looked at by your leader as foreigners? I'll just repeat. It was scripted. He doesn't look at Welsh speakers as foreigners. It was a script. It's been taken out of context. It was taken out of context. What was the context? The context was that there were people getting married and they'd written a script. A script had been written. Is he going to apologise for it? Are you going to apologise to people in Wales for what Nigel Farage has said about the language? Do you really think that this is an important point when there are so many other things? There are so many other things. What else does he say about us then? You've got to worry about us voting for you. You want us to vote. No apology then. Okay, gentleman in black and white there. If he's putting down the Welsh people like that, he shouldn't do it. There was a point made there earlier about businesses closing down, like butchers, for example, and I feel really strongly about that. Very recently, we've just had Easter, and the biggest thing we were selling in the butchers is lamb. That's the greatest thing we sell here in the country, and as it happened, the supermarkets cut their prices by 50% at that very time. It was the busiest time for butchers. What are you going to do about keeping that food chain being worth its value? Eluned Morgan, quickly to conclude our session on agriculture, what hope can you offer these people who clearly work in the industry, many of them? Well, the fact that the SFS has developed with the industry, was developed with the industry and with the farming unions, hopefully that's an important step forward. £350 million is already being spent on it, and I do think it's important as well that we are worried about the wider rural sector, that we are worried about the food shops and butchers and so forth. That's why only 50% of the small shops pay any kind of business rates, and we have brought that down by 15% recently since April to give more help, because Eluned Morgan, our time is up. Our time is almost up, so to conclude this evening, each of you has 30 seconds and no more to highlight the biggest difference the people of Wales would see in 1 year's time if your party is in government after the election. And once again, we've selected the order out of a hat. So firstly, Jane Dodds. I want a Wales that is compassionate, ambitious and full of hope, and that doesn't put the finger of blame on other people. The number of children in poverty must be reduced by providing more money into childcare. And I also want to look after the most vulnerable people in their communities as well by providing more funding into social services. That is my promise to you, people of Wales. OK, time up. Helen Jenner, thank you. More money back in your pockets. People of Wales being put first and going back to common sense. Thank you very much. You haven't taken your 30 seconds, I noticed, but thank you very much. We'll move on to Paul Davies. After 27 years of Labour, with support of Plaid Cymru and the Liberal Democrats, Wales is not working as it should. These parties have failed you. The Welsh Conservatives have a credible scheme to fix Wales and to get Wales working. We will cut your taxes and put that money back in your pockets. We will cut waste and we will fix our public services. So vote for the Welsh Conservatives on the 7th of May. Paul Davies, thank you very much. On to Eluned Morgan. Well, in a year, I hope that the confidence in the country will increase and people in the country will have increased confidence after living in a world that's very unstable at the moment. We will still be moving in the right direction with a costed plan, and people who want help in the health service will receive the help they need. There will be work available to people. Families will get the support they need. There'll be a new chapter that will have opened in the history of Wales. I've got to interject there, Eluned Morgan. On we move to Rhina Piorwarth. After a year of a Plaid Cymru government, what I predominantly want people to feel is hope. Hope that our country finally is on the right track, with pride that our politicians are willing to challenge Westminster for the benefit of the people of Wales, and by refuting those who are trying to split our communities, that we have a prosperous future ahead of us. What we need is a government that is determined to realise that vision and that is accountable to the people of Wales and only to the people of Wales, not to the parties in London. So Plaid Cymru is the party for you. 30 seconds up there. Tessa Marshall, please. If this is the first time you are voting, if you wonder whether your vote will count or if you just don't understand this voting system, I'm talking to you. This election is key for our health, for our environment and for our future. By voting Green, you have the power to ensure that we prevent reform from taking the seat in seats across Wales, and that the next government will become accountable to us, the people. Vote Greens on the 7th of May. Hope is on the horizon. Thank you very much. That's it from the big debate. Remember that there's a full list of who's standing in this election on the Yr Egin, Newyddion and BBC Cymru View websites. Thank you to the politicians this evening, to our audience here in the Egin, and of course course, thank you to you listening and viewing. The reaction will continue from the Spin Room on the Newyddion Esbyrreg Facebook page and also on the Newyddion Esbyrreg YouTube channel. With exactly a fortnight to go before polling day, the decision is now in your hands, and we will bring you the hustle and bustle of the count and the results live in a special programme on Friday, the 8th of May on Esbyrreg, Radio Cymru and on digital platforms. But from all of us here on The Big Debate, thank you for your company and a very good evening.
Well done.